The time has come. This is it. This is the Clash Royale League European Playoffs. In the tunnel, the number 4 seed, SK Gaming, and the number 3 seed, Allegiance. Two titans of Clash Royale will fight to stay alive in the quest for the CRL crown. Gentlemen, welcome to the playoffs.
It's been a long road to get here. 3 more wins necessary to make it to World Finals. Lupanji has put his team on his back. 26 overall wins this season. Looking for a couple more today. Across from him, Morton, a man that I consider one of the best in the business at 2v2, has put his squad in a position to make their way to Japan. Over 2 months ago, 8 teams entered the arena. Now only 4 remain. Hello and welcome to Clash Royale League. I'm Rich Slayton. Joining me is Andrew Guy for the playoffs, and we are so excited. The playoff picture has been set, and today we will start off with Allegiance versus SK Gaming. The winner of that will go on later today to face number 2 in G2. The winner of that will go to our regional finals against Team Queso.
Absolutely, and whoever takes that match will be going all the way to Tokyo, Japan on December 1st for our World Finals.
But right now, 2 teams facing off in the first round. They, of course, have met twice before. Allegiance versus SK Gaming.
Yes, of course. And for Allegiance coming out today, we've got Lupanji, Wiko, Doberman, and DonkeyKong, their opponents, SK Gaming, in that 4th spot, coming in with Morton, Loi, Flobby, and Matt01.
We are all excited for the action today, so let's waste no more time and take a look inside the war rooms as they prepare for battle.
Premier objectif de la CRL qui a été atteint, atteindre les playoffs. Nouvel objectif, aller à Tokyo. Voilà. Ouais. Donc là, on a 3 matchs à jouer. On y va match par match, parce que de toute manière, c'est ce qu'on a à faire. On commence par SK. On les a déjà battus, donc voilà. On a juste à faire comme on a déjà fait. On s'est bien préparé. On a préparé nos decks, on a préparé les bans qu'on allait leur faire, etc. On est prêt. Donc on a juste à sortir d'ici et aller leur montrer. Maintenant, ferme-moi ma petite... voilà. Vas-y. Je sais pas si vous êtes au courant, mais à Tokyo, les cerisiers sont en fleurs. Et c'est magnifique. Donc c'est ce qu'on va faire pour aller les voir. Voilà. C'est de la grosse merde. Allez, là. 1, 2, 3, allergy!
Playoffs. Finally, right? Yeah. Finally we're here. No? I'm happy that you guys are feeling good today. Just quick words, but you guys know that I'm never quick. So we have one opportunity, and we have a different format, which was initially the format that we would be happy to play. I feel very comfortable, very confident about you guys. Let's get it.
The Siege of Orleans, the Battle of Thermopylae. Throughout history, Europe has known great battles. Now, the next one begins. SK and Allegiance, send your 2v2 combatants into the arena and fire the first shots!
Allegiance and SK Gaming split the season, each taking a 2-set sweep. One taking 2v2, the other taking 2v2. But Andrew, there is only one 2v2 set that matters today.
Absolutely, and that is our playoff set, the way to kick it off and get the momentum going for the rest of the match. We've got Lupanji and Wiko coming out for Allegiance. These guys have stepped into the ring as a 2v2 duo 6 times, taking 4 of those sets, having a lot of success. And their opponents, Morton and Matt01. We've only seen one time this duo, but they are the strongest 2v2 competitors for SK.
And taking a look at the ban cards active for all of our potential 3 games here in this 2v2 set, it is Royal Giant and Tornado.
Well, Rich, it would not be playoffs if things weren't changed a little bit. We're so used to seeing NATO coupled with the Lava Hound in ban, seeing the Royal Giant move in. Just very exciting stuff.
An interesting ban coming from SK Gaming because they were so excited playing Royal Giant earlier. Right. So what do they have in store today in this 2v2 set?
Yeah, and you always wonder with that Lava Hound not being banned, does that mean that both teams are going to be implementing it? And very quickly, we see that probably not from both hands here. Most likely looking like a Golem beatdown deck based off the cards around for SK. And then at the bottom here, Allegiance, we see that a very, very strong dual lane pressure deck with the Barb Hut, the Rascals, the Hogs, and the 3 Musketeers.
So overall, remember, this is going to be a 5-set match as opposed to our traditional regular season 3-set match. We'll open with 2v2, followed by 3 potential 1v1 sets, and then finally a King of the Hill if necessary. It is the first team to win 3 sets to close this thing out and move to round 2 against G2 Esports.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that we are going to be seeing the heel early on. Okay, I mean, I gotta cut myself off here. I was gonna say, I love that we're starting off with a 2v2 set once again, because these guys, all of these players are so very comfortable in that 1v1 set. It's crucial to make the 2v2 matter here in this playoff format. So having it in the very beginning, as we had throughout the entire season, makes it so it is all about establishing confidence and momentum moving throughout the match.
Well, Andrew, we have seen heal before in 2v2, specifically paired with a 3 Musketeers deck. Now, the important thing about that pairing was that they put their opponents on Poison, not on Fireball. And we do see that SK Gaming does have a Fireball in their set.
Absolutely. So now SK has to do a very, very good and quick job of every time those 3 Musketeers come down, or at least the first set of them, to Fireball zap them as soon as possible, because if you're going to use a spell on those 3 Musketeers, you need to take them out and not allow that heal to come through and actually make an impact.
Some notes on that Royal Giant ban, Andrew. In the second meeting between Allegiance and SK this season, SK opened up with a double Royal Giant, Giant Skelly deck, and they ended up taking the win. But then Allegiance took that deck, and in the second and third game, won that to close out the sweep and take the match.
Ooh, and a very, very tough, a very unfortunate flying machine running off to the left there, not picking up that Mega Minion, allowing a lot of damage to come in here on Allegiance's right-hand tower. So now, working our way, getting close to overtime, it is SK with a strong lead, and that's exactly what I'm talking about right there. Fireball zap immediately. That way the heal is not a factor.
And notice how they used the zap first, Andrew, to keep them in place for the Fireball.
That's a very, very good point, Rich. The last thing you want to do is use that elixir on a Fireball and miss the Musketeers and then allow them to get healed. All bad for you if that is the way it goes down.
45 seconds of double elixir time down. We are now moving into sudden death overtime, and now the dual lane pressure starting to pay off for Allegiance, but SK Gaming does have that right-hand tower into some difficult territory.
Yeah, we've got so many spells in the hands of SK, and by so many, I mean, that's really more like 3, but they do a lot of damage. So if you could just go ahead and play defense and cycle out fireballs and poisons, I do feel like that is the safest play right now at 664 HP. You really, really do not want to find yourself committing too hard to one lane and then losing in the other.
So a lot coming down the right-hand side. They do need to deal with those 3 Musketeers. The poisons will help the Baby Dragon getting some distractions, so nice work picking up the dangerous push on the left-hand side.
And you know, Allegiance was spamming that heal button, just hoping, praying that they could get it down before those 3 Musketeers were taken out by the Baby Dragon. Not going to happen. An unfortunate first game for Allegiance and a great start for SK.
Huge start for SK. They did win the first game in their second meeting and got reverse swept, but they did take the sweep the first time these two squads met out. So now 1 game away from taking an early lead, and in this best of 5 set, 2v2 doesn't hold as much weight, but still very important.
Yeah, and you see here a very, very nice poison coming in for Allegiance, taking out the Night Witch. However, that flying machine making his way down the left lane as opposed to defending the right allows so much damage to come through. And you see the Fireball coming in, not able to hit all the troops, really just kind of a desperation defense. Anything would work, but not going to happen. Mega Minion gets in, coupled with the Fireball, going to be more than enough to take it to game number 2.
So add 1 more 2v2 win to both Matt01 and Morton. Of course, both players have been fantastic at 2v2 this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, setting the pace in 2v2 is one of the things that SK has succeeded with throughout.
Well, 2v2 has been a strength for SK Gaming all season, Andrew. Morton going 7-3 in 2v2 sets. Matt01 going 3-1 in sets overall. And we talked about consistently how important that set was in the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you found the teams that struggle with 2v2 throughout the season, or most of the teams that didn't make it into the playoffs. And then the ones that did, like Cloud9, for instance, who struggled with 2v2 in the beginning of the season, kind of got a grasp of it towards the end. And now you see them making it into the playoffs in North America. What I think is very fascinating, though, is now that it's all come down to the wire, you know, Team Queso is one of the most famous teams in talking about how they haven't shown us their best 2v2 duos. now that it's playoff time, you can imagine you're going to be seeing the best out of everyone. And Morton and Matt01 only playing one time together before. Seems like this could be their winning duo. A lot of damage coming in on that left tower for Allegiance.
Tower down in the first minute, so now it's Allegiance fighting from behind, and you have to wonder if this Three Musketeer, Barb Hut, Royal Hog combination is going to be able to push hard enough in 2 minutes to get a tower down.
Yeah, I mean, basically seeing the exact same deck matchups from both of these teams here, you would think no, because SK did such a great job in that first game of defending. However, there were just a couple of unfortunate moments, I should say, not even really misplays for Allegiance in that first game that kind of put them behind. However, in the second game, already losing their first tower early on, probably not going to be a good set for them.
And look at the use of the cannon in this case, Andrew, as opposed to the more popular Tombstone, that extra HP, keeping those Royal Hogs in the center for an extended period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've even found myself using the Tombstone or the cannon in place of the Tombstone a couple times in Grand Challenges just to kind of play around and see how it works, the utility of it.
So talk about that importance of 2v2. SK Gaming went 7-7 this season. Of those 7 losses, 5 of them were in situations where they lost the opening set.
Very, very interesting statistic there. And guys, just really quickly to pay attention, it's very kind of elementary if you've been playing the game for a very long time, but notice the way that the poisons come down behind the golem or on top of the golem, engulfing the Night Witch. It's very important to keep the Night Witch in there for the full duration, hit her with the log as well, and that way when she dies inside the poison so that those last 2 bats are taken care of as well. Very small interaction, Rich, but a very important one. And Allegiance bouncing back here, 479 HP on that top right tower, most likely going to take it with these Royal Hogs, coupled with the log. And now Morton and Matt01 need to put together a big push to take out that right-hand tower.
And Lupanji and Wiko in a good position here from an Elixir standpoint as well, so it's not like Morton and Matt have a big opening here for a counter push to take advantage of that tower down moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And with 2 Three Musketeers in hand, there is that very quick, sneaky play of dropping them in the pocket. Maybe not the best move when you only have 1 Three Musketeers, but if you kind of have 1 to spare, it'd be at least worth trying once if you ever find a clearing there.
Well, there's a question, Andrew, of if you can have enough defensive hold to get the opportunity, dropping 1, baiting out Fireball, and then dropping a second once the spells come.
I really don't like the Three Musketeers in the pocket here. I think it actually might pay off, but with the Baby Dragon and the Fireball, an early heal actually makes those stay alive a very, very nice heads-up adjustment from Allegiance.
Decent poison value, though, and that's a lot of Royal Hogs.
It sure is. That cannon is not going to... That extra 300 HP doesn't really matter when there's 8 Royal Hogs on it.
And not even that expensive of commitment. You still see here Allegiance with the Elixir lead.
Yeah, very, very surprising. They're doing a very good job of keeping up the pressure, so SK's having a hard time goleming up. So now you see the Night Witch and the Baby Dragon coming down a little bit early. The idea here is to play defense, and if it turns out well enough, they can drop a golem in front of them. However, with that big push in the right and missing that 1 Musketeer, this could be... They just got to play some defense right now.
A minute 39 remaining, so the big question here, does SK try to mount another big golem push? I don't know if they have the ability to defend and keep that 981 up for 90 seconds.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and now Allegiance in a position, a really rough position, playing from behind throughout this entire game, kind of now has SK against the ropes, not able to play their win condition. Now they've got the golem down with the Night Witch. How is SK going to defend long enough to create enough space for this push to take the tower?
And again, not a whole lot. The Fireball comes down, but now you've opened up an opportunity for those 3 Musketeers. Although Allegiance very low on Elixir right now, trying to hold on and mount a defense against a decent amount of stuff coming down the right-hand lane.
Yeah, that golem in the pocket is going to preserve the health of the Prince for just a moment longer. The tower is on the Prince, however, and those barbs making it just in time. And now with the golem on the tower and the Baby Drag, this should be it for SK. There
that
we go.
will be it. SK Gaming taking the 2-game sweep in the opening set. And a very important stat here for you, Andrew. Allegiance has lost only 5 games all season. In all 5 of those games, they lost the opening set.
Absolutely. They've only bounced back twice from losing that 2v2 set. And so this is a moment with our first playoff set in the books. Allegiance playing from behind, number 3 falling to number 4 in that 2v2 set. And you see here at the very end in this replay, just a ton coming down the lane. Allegiance not playing the most efficient defense, allowing SK to get a golem in the pocket. When you've got a raged up golem in the pocket with only a 1500 HP left on your tower, you're in a really rough position. You see both the baby dragons coming down the lane, and that is gonna be it. Even though 42 building elixir was spent by Allegiance.
That is so many barbarian huts, Andrew.
Yes, they could not keep that golem at bay, and so now you see SK taking the very first 2v2 playoff set.
And that's a big set. Of course, it is first to 3, but now everything's different. We now have a potential 3 1v1 sets in a row. So let's get into our first head-to-head set of the day.
Every single day, in classrooms, on couches, and on toilets, well, I call them thrones, all around the world, millions of people battle 1v1. Here's a fact. Loweye and Doberman are better than almost all of them. Now, they will go toe-to-toe in the very first 1v1 playoff showdown.
A pretty massive 1v1 set here, Andrew. If Loweye can pull this thing out, his team will be 1 set away from moving on to the playoffs. Doberman needs to get this one to put his squad in a good spot to take this back.
Yeah, Doberman coming out for Allegiance here. One of the stronger players for Allegiance in that 1v1 set. He's 3-1 overall, 6-2 in game, so he is in a great position to kind of change the momentum so far in this match. Loweye, as Rich just said, trying to take this one home for SK. 2-1 in 1v1 sets, 5-4 in games. Very, very excited to see our first head-to-head match here in playoffs.
Taking a look at the ban cards active for all potential 3 games here in our first 1v1 set, the Inferno Dragon and the Royal Ghost.
Yeah, no surprise there with the Inferno Dragon being such a great response to all tanks. The Royal Ghost fits into so many decks, whether it's 3M Royal Hogs, whether it's that no win condition deck. Great ban.
So a big spot here for both players, a momentum shift potential here in our opening set.
And Rich, kind of to finish that thought I was saying about the Royal Ghost being such a nice ban, is we've seen it pop up in Splash Yard. We saw it pop up in that Rascals Prince bait deck. We saw it, with 3M Royal Hogs, the no win condition Siegs deck, and then obviously in almost every single P.E.K.K.A. bridge spam deck.
It has been a big part of the meta as of late, and one of those cards getting a lot of attention right now from the community.
Yes, yeah, the Royal Ghost and the NATO are the two that are under the eyes of the public the very most. I wouldn't say completely under the gun or the crosshairs, behind the crosshairs, but definitely being looked at very, very closely. And speaking of Splash Yard, this is an interesting start of cards for Doberman. Now, this could still read Royal Giant, but, Bowler and Baby Dragon were coupled together a couple months ago with that Splash Yard deck.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. It could be Graveyard coming here for Doberman, and a very high Golem early from Loweye.
Yeah, able to get that Night Witch behind. However, a NATO is going to come in from Doberman here, probably cleaning up this Golem push pretty easily. And in turn, not having much of a counter push, but just playing great defense.
No blood drawn yet as we get close to the midway point of our regulation period. When you look at these two decks, Andrew, when you think about this, oh, it's a Royal Giant. It's not a Graveyard deck.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is early on, it could be Royal Giant. Probably, before we saw it with Graveyard a lot, but that Bowler coupled with the Royal Giant does such a great job, and the Barb Barrel now getting a little tank in front of it to kind of pair up with this old Graveyard variation.
What do you think, though, of this matchup here? We just saw both pushes get stopped pretty well. The Royal Giant did get across the river, but that Bowler, in this case, seems like it might be somewhat of a dead card in Doberman's hand.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what that very last card is in Doberman's, whether it's a Poison or a Fireball or a Lightning. Lightning's been popping up more with Royal Giant to take out the buildings immediately. But you saw in that very, very first push from Loweye, the way that Doberman defended, he already had kind of committed a couple elixir to the lane. So instead of trying to push the opposite lane with an aggressive Graveyard, he doubled down on defense, dropping the Ice Wizard, dropping the Tombstone, saving all of his elixir for defense and defense only. So I actually feel like Doberman's got the matchup advantage here because he can always commit Elixir to playing a very, very stout defense. You see right here, he's still got his NATO in hand. He can ignore the Ice Wiz in the opposite lane. And then that Royal Giant, even if it gets a shot every single time you deploy it, you're doing more damage than Loweye is. And there's the Lightning, as I said, such a good card coupled with that Giant.
We are now entering the end of double elixir time, moving into sudden death. And as you can see right now, Andrew, this will be an interesting thing to see as we go through the playoffs. Both players right now are running that defensive combination of Ice Wizard, Tornado, and Tombstone, just featured on Clash with Ash as possibly the most powerful 3-card defensive combination in the game.
Yeah, and throw the Baby Dragon there for icing on top, being another incredibly strong card offensively and defensively, coupled with that NATO and with Graveyard. You know, again, that's why people are talking about a NATO nerf, is because you have these 3 cards, Tombstone, Ice Wiz, and NATO, that are so powerful together, it almost seems impossible to break through. And he doesn't even have to use the Ice Wiz in this case because everything's on the ground, the bowler's taking care of it, and the Night Witch gets a little distracted, takes a walk.
And here's where the bowler is getting some good value. You mentioned it before on the show, Andrew, is the bowler cleaning up the Golemites once they pop.
Yeah, and, you know, being able to knock those back, and all the spawning troops with Bar Putt popping in a lot. I know with that Rage challenge that there was out over the weekend, a lot of spawning buildings came into. In turn, you saw even more bowlers work its way into decks.
You know, I think I'm going to say right now, I was wrong on calling that bowler a dead card earlier. Between the work on the Golemites and taking care of some of that Night Witch in the back, even though there's a flying bat, still the bowler proving to be a very valuable card.
Yeah, bowler doing such a great job. The splash damage, the piercing damage, the health, all of it making it such a powerful card. You see the Lightning coming in, and this is really going to be it for Loweye. He kind of had a rough matchup here in game number 1. He made the most of it, taking that power down to 1,500 HP, but unless Doberman made some huge defensive mistakes, there was no way for that Golem to break through.
These two players did not meet head-to-head in the regular season, so Doberman taking the first game off of Loweye. And it's going to be interesting to see how Loweye comes back. Of course, he has been in tough spots before in this head-to-head set.
Yeah, and so you see here the Giant making its way across, a great Lightning coming in. You don't really need to use the Lightning on the Tombstone. You can save it to take out troops like the Night Witch and get some damage on that Baby Dragon. Obviously, if you can hit the Baby Dragon, the Night Witch, and the Tombstone and get your Royal Giant straight through, that is the most ideal situation. But really, really great play from Doberman.
So the question now comes, we've seen this so many times, does Doberman go back to the same well? He found so much success. The gamesmanship. What kind of deck choices do they make for game number 2?
Yeah, that is always one of those tough questions, Rich, because you have so much success and also a game in hand now. You feel like you can come out with the same thing and kind of see how your opponent adjusts. That being said, it also means that your opponent's kind of back against the ropes or on their heels. You're kind of in their head. Maybe you play a comfort deck now because also you have a game in hand.
So Magic Archer in the back to open up a fairly expensive opening play, and that poison is going to do a lot of damage, although maybe played a little bit high.
Yeah, just a hair high. Magic Archer's still going to get cleaned up, but it's able to be supported, and that's what a lot of these pros will do, is augment small pushes with just a little bit of elixir, and now they're basically even once again. Loweye actually has a slight lead.
So Loweye taking it fairly slow. Just, you imagine maybe cycling with throwing that Barbarian Barrel in the back.
Yeah, it's a really nice way to cycle, very cheap cycle that does demand a small response. Probably going to see some form of bridge spam here coming from Loweye. And as for Doberman, kind of sticking with the same, maybe changing up his win condition a little bit, maybe moving to Graveyard now because we see that, I mean, this is a very, very common archetype for Graveyard. We see the Royal Hogs coming in for Loweye.
And great work again, the Ice Wizard and Tornado taking care of the majority of that damage, although now escaping, getting through. That's going to be a bit here on the right-hand side, so a minute and a half down, and Loweye taking the slight lead. Both players pretty even on Elixir.
Yeah, Doberman opting to eat that damage to conserve his slight Elixir advantage. If he would have defended against it, it wouldn't have been a strong counter push, and he would have been at an Elixir disadvantage at that point. Kind of resetting now, both these guys. You know, they each threw a jab, kind of time to recollect themselves and feel how they want to take on this next assault.
Loweye didn't play a ton of 1v1 in the regular season, only playing 3 total sets, but 2 of those sets were big ones. early on in the season playing 1v1 and taking the victory over Lupanji in a really fantastic 3-game set. And then also, if you want to go to later in the season, probably the biggest one of the entire year, that 1v1 win in 3 games over Surgical Goblin to clinch their spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, so now this is a very tough position to be in because, so defending against the P.E.K.K.A. with this deck actually isn't that hard to do. However, the important thing is conserving the health of your Tombstone, because the Tombstone's going to be dropped in the middle of the map every single time, right, to pull the Royal Hogs and pull the P.E.K.K.A. to it. However, that opens you up to let your opponent drop the Flying Machine at the river, so you've got to protect your Tombstone in order to stop these big pushes, and now Doberman's paying for it because he did not keep his Tombstone alive. Obviously, his intention was to do that with the Baby Dragon coming in, but the Flying Machine is such a quick card.
And Loai just keeps getting these Royal Hogs down, supported with that Bandit dash, so we're going to be under 1,000 HP on the right-hand side here. The question is, how does Doberman come back now that we are in sudden death overtime?
And I really don't think he can at this point. Loai's been playing this so well, and that last push was so masterful. Hopefully we can look at it in the replay there. You saw the Flying Machine coming down just in time with just enough help, and then the Royal Hogs getting in front of it in turn again to pick off that defensive Tombstone from Doberman, allowing all that damage in, Rich.
You know, seemed like a somewhat ill-timed P.E.K.K.A., but Loai still doing a good job of picking up that Graveyard Poison push and now throwing a lot in the right-hand lane. Yeah,
the P.E.K.K.A. was coming in to essentially tank for those Royal Hogs, kind of to throw in that killing blow. Didn't really work out in his favor, but you know, still a very, very good attempt and some damage down on the tower. So most likely going to even up the set here at 1-1, Rich.
That's a very big one-shot from that Magic Archer, and now it's just a fireball range, so Loai's going to go ahead and spell cycle out and send this thing to a game number 3.
Yes, and this is the playoffs. How exciting. Moving on to game 3 in this 1v1 set from 2 guys we've never seen play against each other before. Very, very well played by both these guys in those opening 2 games.
So last time these guys met, the first time these teams met, Loai came from behind, losing the first game to Lupanji, and then getting the reverse sweep in the same position again.
And this was kind of the first breakthrough here. You saw that Flying Machine picking off the Tombstone early on that was distracting the P.E.K.K.A. However, the P.E.K.K.A. not being distracted anymore allowed it to tank for these Royal Hogs. Venado comes in and activates King, but not after all that damage is already done.
So Doberman took game number 1, Loai takes game number 2, and this is an extremely important game number 3 to set the stage one more time. If Loai wins this one, they are just 1 set away from taking the match and heading to round number 2.
And of course, 1 step closer to our World Finals on December 1st. Rich and I will be there.
Where's that going to be?
Excited. Yeah, Tokyo, Japan.
Tokyo,
man.
Japan.
I can't even believe it. So some of the same coming out for both teams right now. Could be well, never mind.
Looks like Doberman going back to what worked so well in the first game.
Yeah, so maybe he saw something in that bowler going up against these Royal Hogs that would pair up well. And with the Royal Giant, maybe he enjoyed how quickly that Royal Giant got through and put damage on his opponent's tower.
You gotta wonder if playing that bowler to open, though, was a bit of an over-aggressive move here from Doberman, because immediately when it comes down, Royal Hogs in the opposite lane.
Yeah, you know, there was a pretty fascinating video out from one of the pros in North America in Vulcan, and he talked about opening hands a lot. You know, that was a moment there where it was a very aggressive 5 elixir best ground defense card in the back, or best splash ground defense response card in the back. Kind of a, yeah, very expensive considering he had Bar Barrel in his hand. And Tombstone.
Doberman taking care of that Magic Archer early. Mega Minion will get distracted, though, so will not get on tower here.
Poison, a little aggressive because the Bandit isn't going to survive. He was hoping that the Tombstone would be taken out and the Skellies, and in turn that very, very low HP Bandit would dash to a Skelly, dash to the tower without getting touched. Nice in thought, but didn't work out.
Magic Archer does not pick up that Ice Wizard, so maybe a bit of a misplay there from Loai.
Yep, and if I'm Doberman, I'm doing exactly what he does, which is ignore the Magic Archer, take the damage, and double down on the push in the left-hand lane. However, that Hunter is not what he wanted to see.
a huge tank killer card, and for those of you joining us who aren't experienced with the Hunter, that's the way you want to use it. You want to use it to take out a big, heavy troop right up close.
And it feels uncomfortable for those newer players out there to put it so close, up close and personal to tanks, but really the Hunter is the most effective at a short range, and just get a tank in front of it. Like an Ice Golem in front of your Hunter can make it so much more effective, make it last so much longer. And if I'm low-eye here, I'm going to be protecting my Hunter with a Bandit or even with the Barb Barrel as regularly as possible.
Bandit does get off a charge, so that's a nice bit of damage here for low-eye. And again, the Hunter right there. This time the Bat's tanking for the Hunter.
Yeah, and that's going to be just enough tankage to take out that Royal Giant. So really, anything to tank for your Hunter just to get a couple shots off is going to work.
Final 10 seconds of our regular period here, moving into sudden death overtime. And while Doberman does have the single tower lead, he's having to defend against dual lane pressure.
Yeah, and a really, really nice push in that left-hand lane, and that is going to basically tie it up for low-eye. 2 spells away, just needing to play very, very good defense from here on out. And if he keeps the pressure up in the left lane as he is, it'll be even harder for Doberman to get an offensive push.
Not going to take a lot of shots from that Royal Giant to take this tower down, though it does get one off, making things a bit more interesting here.
Absolutely. These Royal Hogs coming in. If even one of them gets a shot in, this could be it. Very nice defense with that fireball, but that last Hog coming in doesn't get a... Wow, and the Ice Wiz coming in.
And this is the dance right now for Doberman, doing everything he can to keep any troop off the tower. So this is where low-eye can play smart, though, Andrew, is just be methodical here, let Doberman overcommit, and try to punish him like right now.
Exactly. He's playing desperation defense, and there's really no way to defend 100% when you're defending it desperately because you can't take any damage. And part of the best defenses out there is allowing your Princess Tower to take a little bit of attention away just for a moment, but at 200 HP, he just couldn't do it. You see these great split pushes coming in. Doberman is forced to allocate all his elixir to the right-hand lane, and that Barbarian Barrel coming in late actually does more harm than good, allowing the Magic Archer to lock onto the Barb and pierce that tower, taking it within kill strike.
Doberman taking the 1v1 set to open up, low-eye taking the 1v1 set to open up this moment. Huge, huge win here. So now it's SK Gaming in a spot where there are potentially 3 more sets. They only need to win one of those 3 to move on and face G2 in our second round.
Yeah, absolutely. In Vegas terms, you are playing with the house's money at this point. There's not a lot to lose in this next set. Now, obviously, you want to close it out. You want to take it home and go be able to relax for 20 minutes or whatever it is before we get into the next game. However, Allegiance needs to take this set if they want to stay alive. It's all about this next set.
Allegiance very, very capable, so let's get into our third and potentially final set.
Tigers, great white sharks, grizzly bears, these are among nature's greatest predators. Go ahead, add DonkeyKong and Morton to that list. Believe me, these guys can smell fear. Gentlemen, time to go beast mode in an epic 1v1 playoff battle.
Another head-to-head pair comes to the podium. You saw that trophy in the middle. That is what's on the line between these 2 players.
Yeah, and a beautiful trophy it is. DonkeyKong coming out for Allegiance, sat out for 5 matches, then came back for their very final one over Team Queso to beat Anthony. He is 8-1 overall in King of the Hill. However, he is only 1-2 in 1v1 sets. His opponent, Morton, has been a 2v2 specialist, 7-3 in that set, but he's also 2-1 in 1v1 sets, looking to close this out and take SK to the next round.
We do have a new set of ban cards here for this second 1v1 set. It's Poison and Royal Hogs.
Yeah, very interesting ban. The Royal Hogs, such a powerful, powerful card in the meta, whether it's with the 3 Musketeers or whether it's just the Royal Hogs as the only win condition. Get it out of here. I don't want to deal with it.
So DonkeyKong, the King of the Hill specialist, against the 2v2 master in Morton. SK's Morton, top of your screen. Allegiance's DonkeyKong at the bottom. And Morton hasn't played a ton of 1v1 this season, but he does have a record of 2 wins and 1 loss in sets.
Yeah, absolutely. In 4 of those decks that he has won with in those games featured the Royal Hogs. So you got to imagine that is why Allegiance took it out of play, not wanting to deal with Morton's Royal Hogs.
So we'll see what sort of other changes Morton makes in
gosh.
this situation.
I can't believe I didn't call him piggies. It's Morton, the guy who coined the term, and I'm sitting here calling them royal hogs. Morton loves the piggies. And a great dash there from the Bandit, just getting enough from that Fire Spirit. So most likely seeing a Golem beatdown here from DonkeyKong, which we've actually only seen him play, not at all. We haven't seen him actually play a Golem beatdown deck here at CRL.
Morton with the Furnace and Baby Dragon. Very interesting combination. You know, you've often seen Furnace paired with Graveyard, and here we go, Royal Giant.
Yeah, very interesting deck here. DonkeyKong using that Fireball to take out the Furnace and get a little damage in on that tower, putting him at a slight elixir deficit. We'll see if that actually ends up being a problem here in a moment.
So DonkeyKong with only a 1-2 set record overall in the season when it comes to 1v1. But you have to remember that one of those is being beat by Canario, who is arguably one of the top 2 players in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Canario has been absolutely incredible, and we cannot wait for that next match in G2 to see what he's going to do in which set he appears in, whichever set he appears in, I should say. And a really, really nice bit of damage here for Morton on that lower left tower.
As we approach double elixir time, it is Morton with the lead of around 600 to 700 hit points on the left-hand side.
And he would have gotten just a little bit more damage in had those guards snuck around his Royal Ghost to take up or soak up a little bit more of the damage from the Lumberjack. As you see, it's going to be the #1 response from DonkeyKong every single time that Royal Giant is played is to get the Lumberjack down immediately. So if I'm Morton, now I need to start thinking ahead, right? You got to change up your strategy. Now next time that I'm going to put the Royal Giant down, I need to make sure the guards get in front just to preserve the HP a little bit longer.
Lightning trying to clean up this push in the right-hand lane, doing a fairly decent job. That Inferno Dragon staying alive longer than DonkeyKong would have liked.
Yeah, DonkeyKong wishing the Lightning was in his hands so that he could lightning and zap that Inferno Dragon, get it out of the way, take it off of his Golem. However, a very nice defense from Morton. And now the guards coming in again behind. The Lumberjack soaks up or takes out that Royal Giant. So you almost wonder why he doesn't just switch up the order that he drops those 2 units.
And the Royal Giant not getting a single hit on the left-hand lane. So that's a big defensive moment here for the Frenchman from Allegiance.
Yeah, and again, just one shot every single time is fine for Morton, knowing he has that Lightning in hand doing so much damage. At tournament standard, Lightning does 293 damage, so he's just going to chill and he's going to spell cycle out. And Morton is going to basically be within 1 game of sending Allegiance on their way.
So getting on the tower is the Golem, choosing to go same
Oh my
lane.
gosh, and there it is. I was going to say, if he doesn't take out this tower, there is too much to defend up in that left-hand lane, Rich.
Big moment there for Morton, and we have seen things like that happen before where you feel like you have the game in hand and it slips away in the final seconds. Let's take a look at some of the action from that game.
Yeah, and the Lava Loon decks and Golem beatdown decks are famous for that. And so this is like the interaction I talked about a lot. And you see, this is the very, very first time it happens. And the guards almost played the best the very, very first time. Every other time that Royal Giant was deployed, his guards didn't actually do any tanking for that Lumberjack, which would have made the game probably close out a little sooner. Not quite as close there at the end, but still totally fine. SK taking that in game #1.
So Morton's been one of the best 2v2 players all season, now showcasing here in 1v1 with a chance to send SK Gaming to round #2.
Rich, we keep referring to these guys on SK as 2v2 specialists, and that's because that's what they've done all season long. But talking to them before this first playoff match, they were all feeling very comfortable and confident. Again, CRL was based off of that combine. All these guys, their skill set was based off of what they'd done in 1v1. Finally now having 2v2 be such a viable thing in competitive play, being able to be a 2v2 specialist is a very, very special thing.
Certainly important, but maybe more important right this second, Andrew, is that King Tower activation. The Goblin Barrel played on the opposite side, but getting NATO to the King Tower, so that's going to make this bait deck a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, a lot more challenging. That is one of the things you never want to have happen when you're playing bait, is get an early King Tower activation, which is why you always opt to throw it in that top left or top right tile.
So a question for you, Andrew, you know, having played a fair amount of bait yourself, with the rise of the bar barrel becoming essentially the third 2-cost spell, kind of taking some of the place of, you might think a few zaps, do you think that that makes bait even more challenging because there's always going to be, it seems, a log or a barbarian barrel in nearly every deck you face?
100%, because a lot of those decks that used to not have the log in it, you can now throw in that barbarian barrel. I mean, one of the greatest examples is that very, very popular deck with the Baby Dragon, the Ice Wiz, the NATO, and whether it's the Graveyard or the Miner, which IMJP made very popular when he hit #1 on the ladder. It makes all those decks that much more threatening to log bait that used to have kind of a weakness to log bait.
Well, despite the challenges here, as we enter the last 15 seconds before double elixir, Morton does have the lead.
And DonkeyKong not even wanting to eat one princess shot on his healthier tower, and now this Ice Wizard doesn't demand a response. Kind of an interesting play there.
DonkeyKong really has not been pushing his Royal Giant, but I wonder if, as this bowler moves forward, that this might be the moment.
Yeah, now that we're in double elixir, this is kind of where DonkeyKong's heavier beatdown style deck, or just more expensive deck, can kind of shine against this cheap, quick log bait cycle deck.
So splitting lanes here, that Royal Giant does get a few shots off on the left-hand tower, and this Inferno Dragon might get a lock here.
Yeah, definitely going to get a lock. So yeah, I was going to say, we're going to see a spell coming out for sure from Morton, a really nice Fireball.
And Morton's only spell response, unless he's holding one more spell, is going to be that Fireball.
Yeah, he's not going to have anything else to reset that Inferno Dragon. Obviously, the log stays on the ground.
And that's the NATO as the final card. So very interesting because, you know, the most common synergies not involved, but NATO Fireball can work, and we saw it play some good defense there.
Yeah, and NATO coupled with the Princess is a really, really nice defense. The Princess does so much damage, as we said a couple times throughout the season. The Princess being most pros' favorite card in the game. She provides such incredible offensive and defensive utility, and then you couple that with the NATO, and all of a sudden she becomes a wizard that's 300 feet away.
So choosing not to Fireball that left hand, and just one Spear Goblin does take it out, but that left-hand tower now in some trouble.
Yeah, recognizing this huge push coming in on the right. If he would have committed too much or any more elixir on that left-hand lane, he probably would have lost this right-hand tower. Doing a very, very good job.
And here comes the log. That's going to be it, Andrew. SK Gaming takes it in straight sets and will be going to round number 2 of the playoffs.
3 up, 3 down. Morton and Loai, and of course, their 2v2 specialists doing it for SK. You can see the disappointment on DonkeyKong's face, not able to extend this match for his team in Allegiance. Morton, the thumbs up, one step closer to that beautiful red trophy, Rich.
That was an unbelievable performance. It really did look like Morton's bait deck might get in some trouble with that King Tower activation, but he played so smart, defended the Royal Giant so well, and helped close things out to send his squad just one step closer to Japan.
Yeah, one of the amazing things about the bait deck is there are so many responses to it, but if those responses are out of cycle, or you even miss a log or a spell, and something stays alive just long enough to tank for all those small troops that do so much damage, the High Princess at the river at the end, just wonderful plays for Morton throughout. And there you see the High Princess at the river getting just 2 shots in, brings it down to 615 HP. The cannon cart distracting the Royal Giant just for a second, opting to ignore the Inferno Drag in the left-hand lane, the NATO backwards, all things coming together for Morton. Nothing in cycle for Donkey to take out that last Gob Barrel, and now you see a log and a Fireball is all it takes. 3 up, 3 down. SK moving on to round 2.
Who said bait was dead, Andrew?
That's right.
Wonderful performance. Let's look at the stats here. And it was just a slightly faster cycle for Morton, who took advantage, never really let DonkeyKong get into his offensive rhythm.
Yeah, you know, you talk about rhythm, Rich, there, and Morton did such a great job of keeping DonkeyKong out of rhythm, not being able to get enough elixir. And that's one of the things about log bait and those cheap cycle decks, is you can really keep up the pressure if your opponent is playing an expensive deck.
Well, rhythm and pressure, 2 very important words right now, because the pressure's on for SK Gaming as they move into into the second round of our playoffs, hoping to keep that winning rhythm in cycle here against G2 Esports, who is about to make their entrance into our arena.
Yes, and G2 coming into their arena with some of the biggest names in the business, but the #1 superstar on their team is definitely Canario with 33 wins overall.
He has been so fantastic this season, definitely one of the top players in the world. You see G2 once again sporting those special jerseys made to represent their home country of Spain. Right now, these squads only have 5 minutes to prepare for this next match, so great for G2, who's been sitting by, probably well prepared for both of these.
Yeah.
SK Gaming, though, has to get themselves ready to go up against one of the best teams in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, and SK said they were most prepared for Allegiance, obviously hoping for a win, but you got to focus on that first victory first and foremost. So now with G2 up against the plate and with such heavy hitters, you wonder if SK has had adequate time.
Well, talking about being prepared, they were, of course, fantastically prepared for the match we just saw against Allegiance. Let's look at some of the replay action as they get ready for their match against G2. Up first, a fantastic moment from that 2v2 set. It's going to be Zap and Fireball on this Three Musketeers.
Yeah, absolutely. Once it was recognized that the heal spell was in effect, it was known that these both spells, because you saw that second set of Three Musketeers coming down immediately, it was known that the poison wasn't going to be the right way to clean up those troops. It was really going to be all about zapping and fireballing those musketeers here. And as we hop into this second replay, you see a little bit of an overcommitment by Doberman in that left-hand lane. It seemed that the troops were already cleaned up enough, and then he overcommitted with that bar barrel, Rich.
And this was that big moment you talked about, Andrew, the Royal Giant coming through, and you see the guards coming to tank just a little bit. And this was a moment I wanted to ask you about, Andrew. It's this last Goblin Barrel coming in. The bowler's already there. Do you think that bar barrel was an overcommitment of that 2 elixir?
I mean, you understand why. It was the thing we talk about a lot is that desperation defense. I can't take any damage at all. I must prevent all of it, mitigate all of it, and you end up not playing your elixir very efficiently. You end up kind of wasting your elixir on those defenses, and that bar barrel was one of those moments because, as you said, that boulder was easily cleaning up those 3 stab goblins, excuse me.
Well, talking about efficiency, it was SK playing very efficiently, and Morton, who hasn't been a big part of the 1v1 or head-to-head play this season, coming out and really being impressive in a big spot against DonkeyKong.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, Rich. Again, these guys are the best in the world at 1v1 in head-to-head play, and guys like Morton, who he loves to play 1v1, has really shined in that 2v2 set. So again, speaking with both teams before the match, they were all very, very excited to get in that 1v1 set. However, you wonder if Allegiance would have succeeded or it would have paid off moving Lupanji into one of those earlier 1v1s.
One of the best of the world, and talking about best in the world, of course, watching very closely are the European #1s in Team Queso. They will face the winner of our upcoming match between SK and G2, and to get thoughts on what we just saw and what we are going to see upcoming and maybe what we might have in store for our European finals, it's St. Bellican standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. St. Bellican, pretty exciting match you and your team are watching in the back. Tell me what you're thinking.
So I was really surprised to see Allegiance get swept 3-0 by SK, and it wasn't even close, like it was 6-1 in overall games. I think that SK prepared a lot better than Allegiance, and that's why they won.
Do you think that maybe Allegiance prepared more for beating G2 or beating you afterwards, but then they failed in the first round?
I think, well, the main priority for Allegiance was SK, but I think I heard things from their trainings, and I think that SK were more dedicated to their training.
Certainly before the match, I talked to them about who they felt they were most prepared for, Queso, G2, or Allegiance, and SK said Allegiance. Now, the question for you is, who are you most prepared for?
We think that G2 will win because there's not much time between the games for SK to prepare for G2. And also G2 have a very, very good roster with Canario probably playing 2 1v1 sets. It's going to be very hard for SK to beat G2.
And that match is coming up. Any predictions? Are we going to King of the Hill?
I think G2 will win 3-1.
And I have to ask, how is the energy back there? Are you feeling excited? Are you feeling nervous?
It's more just excited because it's really cool to see all these great teams, and it's do or die. If they lose it out, they cannot make the World Finals.
Do you feel like, oh, sorry.
And also, whichever team wins, we have to prepare for. So after this match, we'll be training hard for the team that wins.
How is the preparation going? How is it different preparing for the playoffs versus the normal league?
We've been doing less external scrims so that other teams cannot scout our decks. So we've got a few surprises.
A few surprises. And who would you rather do those surprises against? You said you thought G2 would win. Who do you want to play?
I personally want to play Canario because I want to prove myself, but we'll see on Saturday when it happens.
All right. Thanks so much for talking to me. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Of course, that entire Team Queso squad watching this very closely in the back, eyes on who they're going to see in the finals, and that's going to be decided right now. SK versus G2 Esports. Let's take a listen inside the war rooms as they prepare for what might be the most important moments of their careers.
Chavales, ya no dejamos tonterías como otras veces, que si es tú primero, tú segundo, van tal, van cual. Mira, eso ya está más que estudiado, lo vamos a ver todo el mundo ahora, tranquilidad. Yo quiero simplemente transmitir un mensaje que creo que nos tiene que llegar un poquito. Hemos estado aquí 3 meses, jodidos, mucho trabajo, Super Week fastidiadísima, mucha presión. Hemos hecho un buen trabajo, evidentemente, pero sería un poco descafeinado si ahora lo hacemos para nada no, para quedar terceros, no. Aquí se va a ganar. Hemos trabajado como desgraciados para ganar, pues hay que hacer eso de nuevo, como desgraciados, ¿eh o no? ¿Perchu? Sí. Tú que de desgraciado entiendes bastante. No, ya está, chavales, o sea... Hemos hecho mucho trabajo, el resultado va a salir solo. Tranquilo, calmado y a disfrutar. Mira, yo os lo dije contra Fnatic, disfrutamos 2-0. Pues vamos a disfrutar, pero con un 3-0, ¿vale? Vale. Venga, vamos.
Guys, we're in a good mood today. We're playing well. I'm super happy to be here with you guys. Remember what I told you against Liquid? If I could choose any team to play the playoffs for me, it will still be you guys. And yeah, as I can see, I didn't do a wrong choice. So yeah. Let's do the 1, 2, 3 again, and let's repeat what we did a couple minutes ago.
Okay.
Low eye.
Okay, let's go.
1, 2, 3, SK Gaming!
Last night, on the eve of the playoffs, the Queen and I enjoyed a special meal. We ate lasagna, and then we asked for seconds. Why? Because double is always better. G2 and SK Gaming, send your 2v2 tandems into battle and double the playoff destruction.
Talking about double, it's a double header for SK Gaming, twice in one day, facing off now against one of the best teams in all of CRL.
Absolutely. G2 coming out. No surprise to see Faye in this spot. 5-0 in that 2v2 set. 10-1 in 2v2 games. His buddy, his companion, Sheer, also coming out for G2 today, looking to take that first set. SK Gaming on the other side. Loweye and Morton coming back out for their team, looking to repeat what happened in the first match of the day.
Taking a look at the card bands, active for all potential 3 games of our opening 2v2 set. It's going to be Tornado and Lava Hound.
There we go. Back to the basics. It might be playoffs, but however, we're going to stick with the bands, the most popular bands here in 2v2.
Well, that's a question, Andrew. Is this when you take risks, or is this when you play it safe? So much on the line. One of those two is the right choice.
Let's go, Morton.
You know, Rich, so much at stake, so much on the line. You'd think you'd have to take risks to throw off your opponents when you get to this point here in playoffs. Everyone being so good technically, you think you maybe need an edge with that risk.
That's an interesting question I guess these players will answer. Of course, we just saw Morton throwing out that bait deck that seemed a little bit risky, and it paid off very well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Bait, something we haven't seen a ton of, but that was actually a great matchup for him. It didn't seem great initially or inherently, but then, you know, we saw him keep up that pressure, keeping his opponent out of rhythm. You know, Morton having a ton of success here today in the EU playoffs.
Looks like Morton and Loweye prepared to go against a Golem Beatdown or a Royal Giant deck, but here they are facing off against a fairly fast Royal Hog deck instead.
Yeah, very interesting thing about this deck, even though it is so good at stopping the tanks, honestly, the miners alone end up being enough damage throughout, sending them in every single time you have enough elixir.
So the first time these squads met, it was G2 taking the straight 4-game sweep, but the second time they met, it was the opposite way. It was SK sweeping the number 2 team in Europe in 4 straight games, which was the only sweep loss that G2 took all season.
Wow, so you know that's in the back of their minds. When you lose badly to one specific team, you always kind of want to come back with a vengeance.
4 of these players appeared in 2v2 the first time these teams met. It was Sheer and Faye up against Morton paired with Flobby, and that's when Sheer and Faye took the sweep, so might be a bit of a reason why we are seeing the brothers back in action to open up this match.
Yeah, and that Magic Archer coming through for the brothers, getting a good amount of damage down on that tower for G2 here, and you got to imagine that communication problem that so many teams kind of have an issue with. G2 got the luxury of kind of skipping over having brothers in a pair. They don't even talk to each other at the stand. They're in each other's minds.
Thinking about how much 2v2 has advanced, Andrew, when these teams first played, it was week number 1 of CRL. The 2v2 meta really hadn't been established. The bans in that game were Valkyrie and Rocket.
I mean, you know, when this season started out, that Valkyrie was so powerful, and that bait deck with the Valkyrie and the Rocket was also hugely in the meta, so it's very interesting. You know, you go back and you watch those initial broadcasts, how much has changed for the teams and for the broadcast here at CRL.
Well, as we enter into our sudden death overtime in the next few seconds, right now it is G2's Faye and Sheer with the split lane pressure really putting it on Morton and Loei. The SK representatives need to find a way to start getting on that right-hand tower because they are starting to get in a lot of trouble. That Magic Archer doing a ton of work on the right-hand lane.
And that Magic Archer is going to be the reason why G2 takes game number 1. So now SK having an incredibly fortunate morning so far. Incredibly fortunate playoff appearance, ends up losing their very first game here to G2.
That was just a really tough spot. That Magic Archer pretty much hung out there forever. I want to figure out how many shots that was. It felt like it might have been 6 or 7.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that Magic Archer is once it gets through the tower, once it is protected, and you see it's dropped absolutely perfectly here. Look at the tile placement. Just a little offset to the right, not on the farthest tile, but in that middle one there, and it is on that P.E.K.K.A, just destroying that tower.
You know, I was 1 shy. That was 8 shots of the Magic Archer on that right-hand tower, and really, you know, there's not a lot you can do. Once that happens, you are in a heap of trouble.
Yeah, we talked about SK kind of maybe putting G2 on a different type of deck. G2 not having to use any building elixir and still playing great defense.
So the brothers, Sheer and Faye, starting things off right, trying to do it again. So game number 2, reminder the bans are Tornado and Lava Hound. Morton and SK, Morton and Loei playing top of your screen. Sheer and Faye at the bottom.
And in the very, very far top left-hand corner of your screen.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, my friends.
Wait,
is
what?
The bomb tower. I believe we've seen the bomb tower once before in 2v2, maybe? But very curious to see. It is a great response for the Royal Hogs. Not in play for G2, though.
That's going to be a bit of a frustration there for SK Gaming when they realize that they are not against Royal Hogs again. So nice shift over for Faye and Sheer taking advantage of having a game in hand.
And that flying machine placed in the center of the map is going to be a nightmare for that bomb tower. And a huge incoming push here for G2. A lot of damage mitigated, actually, by SK. The Prince still getting a jab in from that Lance. About 1,000 damage in early on.
That's a lot to take in this first minute. But not a lot of elixir for G2 at the moment, so they might have a chance to fire back here. The Miner does get a couple of shots.
And G2 opting to golem up in the opposite lane. Now going to have to respond here pretty well to these 3 cards coming in for SK. That's a lot of DPS from those 3 troops.
Yeah, that Prince is going to get on tower, and with the Dark Goblin in support, I don't know if we're going to see yet. The Baby Dragon is going to survive, but won't really do much in the opposite direction.
And a late log coming in to clean up that Dark Goblin that was just such a menace. A great P.E.K.K.A coming down. You don't know if that P.E.K.K.A was actually even in sight to defend against the Flying Machine or if it was just to take out the Golem, but it ends up protecting the bomb tower of SK.
And the bomb tower actually working out fairly well there, Andrew, especially once we get into phase 2 and the Golemites come out, making it a little bit easier for that P.E.K.K.A to take them off the board.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the P.E.K.K.A with the bomb tower is going to be a great response to that Golem every single time. And then, you know, the bomb tower doing that splash damage on the ground should help clean up a lot of these support troops. However, the Mega Minion and the Baby Dragon still being in the air are going to be a bit of a frustration.
And that miner just being left alone on that left-hand tower, so not quite in fireball or poison range, but very close.
And you understand why they left it alone. They really need to commit to this push now. Being able to take this tower is so very important because, you know, seeing 287 in the bottom left, they know this is going to either be a two-tower game or they're going to lose.
So the final 15 seconds, SK Gaming gonna get one more miner. Miner does not get picked up. Kind of a surprising move here.
It's because G2 has to take this right-hand tower, and it's just not gonna happen, Rich. They cannot get there in time. Not enough spells, not enough cards coming in. Great defense from SK, now splitting this 2v2 set.
Loweye was pretty even overall in 2v2 this season, going 4-4 in the set, but here taking a very important game, and he would love to go 1-0 in sets here in our playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. This 2v2 set is so important in setting the tone, and SK really riding high on their confidence. You saw this early push coming in from SK. They recognized that G2 was probably at a slight elixir deficit, and then G2 opted to golem up, so they in turn went very, very hard in this left-hand lane. The Baby Dragon comes in, the late log, and now they're left with not a ton to support that golem push in the right.
So only 4 building elixirs spent there in that game, but 4 very important elixir, part of that bomb tower P.E.K.K.A defense against the golem.
Yeah, who'd have thought? Playoffs would be the time that we saw the bomb tower come into play and be very effective.
Let's go.
Well, creativity has been a theme, Andrew, as these 2v2 pairs have met throughout the regular season. In their second match, where Loweye and Matt beat Fairchew and Canario, SK went traditional, running Lava Loon and double Royal Hogs in their first and second game, but they came up against double bait from G2 in the first game, and then double Graveyard in the second.
Yeah, very interesting deck compositions coming from G2.
I think we definitely learned double Graveyard didn't make many appearances, was not very successful this season.
Nah, I mean, because honestly, all you need is that one Graveyard to get an effect, right? If one Graveyard is played effectively, you can easily take the tower. So it all became about supporting that Graveyard with freezes, with golems, with other surrounding troop to make your Graveyard more impactful. It wasn't like you would get a golem across the river and both of you drop a Graveyard and it was always towered down. One of those things that, again, it seemed like a great idea on paper, but didn't actually work out here in the arena.
Well, talking about ideas, Andrew, with the set on the line and a trip to the finals against Team Queso in the balance, neither team opting to get too creative here in the third game of 2v2. It's double golem on both sides.
Yeah, a lot of elixir coming down for G2 to clean up that push. Probably wishing or gonna opt to save the poison that they have in hand of Faye now to deal with those Nightwish golem pushes. Again, the Nightwish is best dealt with behind the golem with a poison and a log.
Morton and Loweye playing very, very comfortable and calm here. And part of their loss in the first matchup against Sheer and Faye back to open up our regular season, it was SK Gaming pushing tower, over-committing in a situation where they could have played for the draw and not being able to pick up on the defense. So in this case, it seems like Morton and Loweye are definitely taking their time, making sure they're not over-committing in any situations.
Yeah, and you saw in game 1 here, they kind of made a bit of a mistake. Not with a huge overcommittal, but maybe just not committing more to defense than they needed to, and that was why G2 took it pretty handedly. Bouncing back in game number 2. Game number 3 here now is kind of everything is out to play. You've got to feel each other out in those first 2 games, and you're probably riding even confidence levels as well.
Those guards barely picking up that Lumberjack, but doing their job just in time. So with about 30 seconds left in regulation, we are getting very close to sudden death overtime, and that's something we've seen a lot here in 2v2, the double classic Prince.
Yeah, the Prince there doing such a great job against tanks, having that tankiness to it himself, and of course his great charge ability doing so much damage, also popping a lot of those DPS troops that are squishier.
So 10 seconds left now in standard regulation time. And now we're seeing the full double golem push come out from G2.
Yeah, so you got to imagine SK could do the same thing, or they could opt to double down on defense. If I'm SK, I play double down on defense and then save my other golem for a big counter push. And that's what it seems like they're trying to do right now.
The Inferno Dragon getting taken out, not being able to get a really great target. So there's a fairly healthy golem making its way all down to that tower. It does pop before it hits, but those golemites will do some significant damage.
Absolutely, taking it just below 1,000 HP, and now this is the moment where SK kind of probably wishes they'd played just a little bit more efficient defense so they could use that golem. Probably now, hindsight being 2020, wish that they used the double golem to meet G2's double golem.
Well, the hard part being how bunchy these troops can get. Take a look at the defense here of SK Gaming. With that Baby Dragon now cleaning up a lot of that defense, one spell can come in, get a lot of that out of the way. So it's a little bunched up here, and it works in this case, but definitely a high-risk situation.
Yeah, and also one of those things where you wish the rocket was in hand. I believe the rocket was in hand the very first game, but being able to clean up all those troops behind that double golem push with one rocket is such a nice luxury to have when playing defense. Obviously, the poison, the fireball, and the zap are all great, but that rocket is just so effective.
And this is smart from G2. They're forcing their opponents to not be able to play for the draw by getting that poison down. They're worried more about tower damage than damaging those defending troops, and I think that might be a situation that forces SK's hand.
Yeah, if I'm G2, I'm going to keep playing high golems at the river, keeping the pressure up, poisoning out that tower, knowing that you've got about 90 seconds left. You can get around in that rotation to all your spells a couple times. Should be an easy spell cycle out. Now, nothing here at CRL is easy.
So this might be the deciding interaction here with about a minute remaining. That fireball put in at 448. This is probably going to be it. It looks like G2 will be taking the 2v2 set and going with that advantage into our multiple 1v1s.
Absolutely. So now SK riding on a high here after eliminating Allegiance in 3 quick sets up and down. G2 does take the very first set from SK, moving into our head-to-head play.
Sheer and Faye, you know, the brothers have been really great this year. Faye, of course, wasn't with us for a lot of the season, back home in Spain, preparing and taking his university examinations. Well, whatever he was doing there, it seems like it's working here because now they are one step closer to those European finals.
Yeah, and a really interesting start that Faye had in this season, right? Because he was known as, or hailed as, one of the greatest head-to-head players in the world. He kind of came into the 1v1 sets for G2 and really struggled going 1-6 in games and 0-3 in sets, but he's 5-0 in 2v2. Now, you see here, this is when it started to be kind of a lot of the same. This is when G2 doubled down on that golem push, allowing that second golem to get to tower, getting that death damage, getting the golemites on was really the deciding factor in the game. In this moment, SK doubled down on defense instead of putting that second golem down. Maybe a misplay in hindsight, and now you see the not the quick cycling, but the spell cycling of G2, playing great defense, meeting everything at the river, just slowly and calmly getting back around to that fireball.
So G2 has never lost a match when they have only one time lost a match after losing the opening set, but every time they win the opening set, they have gone on to win the match overall. But if you're an SK fan, don't be too nervous because this is not best of 3, this is best of 5, so still potentially 3 1v1 sets and a King of the Hill on its way. Let's jump into our first head-to-head play.
Like a lighthouse standing all alone, watching us upon a distant shore, so does the 1v1 warrior brave rough waters for his team. Poetic, huh? Canario and Mat01 shine bright and guide your team through playoff waters in search of victory.
Opening up our head-to-head play, it's the Italian for SK Gaming facing off against a man that many consider to be the best in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned that he has 33 game wins when this match started. However, 25 of those are in head-to-head play. Only 8 losses coming for Canario of G2. Maybe the scariest man in the world behind that podium. Across from him, Mat01, looking to kind of take down the giant killer that became the giant in Canario. Matt, 0-1, 6-9 in these 1v1 games.
There will be a new set of card bans for all of our potential 3 1v1 sets. For this one, it's going to be Tornado off the board for all potential 3 games here in this head-to-head play.
That combination of the Ice Wiz, NATO, and Tombstone is so incredibly powerful. This takes that out of play, which is interesting enough for me, Rich.
Opens up so many offensive options,
Yeah.
and against a guy who's as deep as Canario, that's really frightening.
Yeah, you talk about the depth of Canario's deck choice. It's really tough when a guy doesn't really ever lose with any deck. So how do you ever put him on a comfort deck or a weakness? What do you ban to kind of, keep him on his heels? No one really knows right now with this guy.
Well, these two did face off during the regular season in a 1v1 set, and Canario took a pretty clean sweep in 2 games. The first time he played Miner P.E.K.K.A. Poison against Matt01's Giant Miner and won that one fairly well. And the second match, they both played 3M Royal Hogs, but Canario had the Elixir Pump and just defended really well until double Elixir time, figured out that Valkyrie and Fireball were out of cycle, and punished with a big Royal Hog push.
And for our replay booth, we can keep a highlight on that very, very first Magic Archer from Canario. We're going to come back and talk about that because that is one of the reasons why he's the best in the world. You saw where he placed it to get chip damage on the tower. You saw it doing damage on the Baby Dragon. You saw the Royal Hogs come down to protect the Magic Archer in turn to stop the counter push from Matt01. Very, very small micro plays that create a huge momentum change, elixir change, everything in the match.
And that's one of the things about Canario as a player, Andrew. And of course, the big debate is who's the best in the world right now. Canario from G2 or over in North America for Immortals, the Romanian Royal, who's been so fantastic. And talking about play styles, Canario it's a methodical style of play where he always seems to be thinking just 1 or 2 more interactions ahead of his opponents.
And I think it's because he never clouds his mind with anything other than winning and losing this specific game. Not match, not set, the one game, the 3 to 6 minutes he has in front of him at hand. Canario and his coaches have spoken to me at length about how he has this incredible ability to kind of go into this Zen blackout mode of focusing on nothing other than the game at hand. And that is why he can spend that bandwidth, his brain waves, on thinking and planning ahead for his opponent, gaming his opponent.
In over 30 head-to-head games, he's only lost a total of 8, which is astounding. And talking about those wins for Canario, there's of course taking out IMJP, there's taking out Surgical Goblin and Diego B, there's beating Azelis, reverse sweeping Lupanji, and of course probably the biggest story of all that is the King of the Hill sweep over Team Queso, who he might face in the finals.
And now you see right here, Canario just kind of doing what he does, playing incredible defense, never overextending himself. Just, there's not a lot to say about this guy other than he is so incredible in every single head-to-head instance you see him, and even when he loses, he puts up an incredible battle.
And one note about Canario with those game losses, often they've come in game number 1, and he's gotten the reverse sweep as well, so he's very good at bouncing back. Matt01, while he's in trouble here, this Graveyard deck, as we've mentioned, probably to a point where some people are like, please, we get it. This Graveyard deck can change things in a blink, and while there are some good responses in the Poison and the Bats, if Matt can time outside of those, he could take a tower very quickly.
Absolutely, and you'd think with the way that Canario plays, he's never going to have his Poison out of cycle to take care of that Graveyard anymore. And that's going to be the real challenge for Matt01 here, is to create enough pressure without the Graveyard to force Canario to use his Poison out of cycle. However, Canario does have those Bats he can drop directly on top of the Graveyard, and then he has the Magic Archer that he can drop behind the King Tower towards the Graveyard and pick those Skellies off from a distance.
That Barbarian Barrel was huge there, Andrew, trying to use the Magic Archer to get rid of that Tombstone. Instead, the Barbarian Barrel kills it and prevents a significant portion of that damage from the Royal Hogs.
And now Canario is in that tough spot, and that's really what the Royal Hogs kind of do, is that you do so much split lane pressure. You all of a sudden look and you're like, wow, my opponent's only got 2100 HP between his 2 towers. However, I'm actually losing because I have the lowest tower, and that is not a position you want to be in.
That's a great poison, Andrew. We get to take care of that Magic Archer and get a lot of damage on that tower. So now halfway through sudden death, if Matt can defend this very well, and a beautiful tombstone, Matt01 in a position to come back and steal game number 1.
An excellent high late tombstone. The poison is out of cycle, and Matt01 looks like he is going to steal this from Canario. Just one spell away right now. 210 on the tower. He's not quite, oh, excuse me, 183. Just a poison away, and you got to imagine there's no way that Matt is not going to play the best defense of his life in this moment.
Fire Spirits have become a big part of the anti-Royal Hog meta as of late, and there we go with that poison. Matt taking game number 1 over possibly the best player in the world.
Incredible. We sat here and talked about how great Canario was almost to ad nauseum throughout this first game. The whole time, Matt01 sitting there chipping away throughout that entire match, playing great defense, not making any mistakes. And honestly, I bet you Canario cannot believe what has just happened.
And here you go, Andrew, that opening Magic Archer you talked about that really seemed like, this felt like Canario had the game in hand from the opening minute.
I mean, you look at this, all these plays, it's even lined up with the tombstone, takes out the tombstone. Matt has to spend so much elixir, doesn't get any counter push potential. However, Matt plays excellent defense. You see the poison coming in from Canario, and that is a slight misplay, if you want to call it that. Now, this is actually the very last interaction, so you understand why he went all in. But the one beforehand, the push before where Canario used his poison out of cycle to try to do just a little bit more damage, left him wanting on that graveyard defense.
And there was a great play from Matt in that situation as well, cycling back to get a second tombstone.
Yeah.
The Royal Hogs escape, he pulls him back to the top, and that felt like a big momentum shift. And here we are with Matt01, a game in hand.
Yeah, very surprising turn of events there in that first game, but that is what the playoffs are all about. And again, speaking with Matt before his first match today against Allegiance, was just saying, I'm so excited to get in that 1v1 set and prove to everyone why I deserve to be here.
So double Royal Ghost, and it's looking like it's some version of bridge spam from Canario, although could be a Three Musketeers deck as well. Feeling much more spammy with that E is down.
Yes, absolutely. And then in turn on Matt's side, you see the Hunter coming in, sometimes paired with the Giant, sometimes paired with the Minor Giant, Three Musketeers.
And it's going to be a Royal Hog deck from Matt01, a good fireball, although still a couple of shots will get in.
So probably Three Musketeers in that deck as well for Matt01. And one of the most interesting things about playing Three Musketeers right now, if in fact either of these guys are playing it, is that the NATO is out of hand. So you can't ever NATO all three to one side and get an excellent spell value with either a poison or a fireball. You've kind of just got to deal with the dual lane split.
Magic Archer as well for Matt, so going back to the Royal Hog deck, and again, Royal Hogs, Three Musketeers Royal Hog specifically did fail for him against Canario when these two players met back in the opening week of the season, but a lot has changed since then. Remember, it's SK Gaming, most recently with the sweep over G2.
And a really nice change, or little interaction there with the bats coming in. He was to stop the bats, to kill the Hunter, to create this push in turn. A really nice battle ram on tower for Canario. And if that is one of those methodical plays, you saw it kind of slowly unraveling, and it all started with the flying machine played up high.
So Matt getting up towards 9. Might we start seeing some Three Musketeers at this stage? Do you think Three Musketeers are part of this deck?
Probably not anymore at this point, Rich. I think I spoke a little too soon earlier, just seeing the Royal Ghost and the Hogs in there. Even the Bar Barrel can sometimes be played with Three Musketeers, but you'd think Matt would want a strong spell
at this point, and there you go, it's the poison.
Yeah. And then Canario, on the other hand, probably playing P.E.K.K.A. He really does love... and
there it is.
Thanks, Canario.
And now we're getting an idea of why we haven't seen that 7th or that 8th card for so long, because P.E.K.K.A. so far hasn't really found a card that it matches up fantastically with. And here you go, Matt taking advantage of the slow walk and getting damage on tower.
And one of the most fascinating things about the P.E.K.K.A. being played here at CRL is a lot of the times when you see, or for us, we get the luxury of talking to teams after matches, and usually when the P.E.K.K.A. is played, their opponents, or excuse me, their teammates or coaches will praise them, and it'll usually be saying, you use that P.E.K.K.A. so patiently, or you are so patient with your P.E.K.K.A. play. That is the thing, is you don't even need to play the P.E.K.K.A throughout the entire game if it doesn't find a moment. It's really about creating a massive defensive counter push and a huge negative elixir trade for your opponent. That's the best time to play your P.E.K.K.A.
Well, despite the fact that it's Matt01 playing the dual lane pressure of the Royal Hogs, it's Ben Canario's P.E.K.K.A bridge spam that takes it right there.
And the replay booth, we need to pull that because that's happened twice now, and it's one of the most beautiful things here with the Battle Ram going up at the Tombstone. If you get the Tombstone out of play just in time, your opponent doesn't defend the same way that they would if the Battle Ram was coming straight through completely unmitigated. So you take out that Tombstone, and all of a sudden your opponent is left wanting in their defense because that Battle Ram is at a full charge on your tower.
And it's almost like it bounces off the air directly onto your tower. And so here we're going to see one of those interactions. There's that Tombstone out of the way, and whoopsie-daisy bounces to your tower.
And you see those 3 quick shots from the flying machine. Canario does this twice, and at the very end there, you see Matt01 just goes, good game. Sometimes you just get outplayed by your opponent. And right here, I was even thinking, if he has Fireball and Cycle, you know it's going to come down, and he gets it just a half tile in time. Boom goes the dynamite. Canario taking game number 2.
And there we are, things all tied up. And this is kind of an important one because if Canario wins this, we go into our next 1v1 set close to closing out against SK. If Matt01 wins this, it does feel like a situation where we might push all the way to King of the Hill.
Absolutely, Rich. All of it coming down to game 3.
Reminder of your ban cards, and part of why you've seen so much action is there's been no Tornado allowed from either player, so that is the only card banned.
And you know that that NATO being in effect would have made that Battle Ram deck that much less effective because you'd think probably would have ran into that Ice Wiz NATO Tombstone deck, and that Battle Ram would have never connected.
So Matt, opening Lava Hound, does this make you think more Lava Loon or Lava Miner?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess we'll probably find out pretty soon here, but the thing is with these Lava Loon decks, they only have 2 ground responses usually. It's usually the Tombstone and the Guards. So now with Canario running a bridge spam deck, this is exactly it. He's going to go hard and heavy early on. Matt01 putting the Inferno Dragon in is a great decision, but exactly. So now Canario is in the great position throughout this entire game of having a lot of ground offensive options, and Matt01 having little to no ground response.
But Canario is going to eat a lot here. This tower is very much in danger of dropping.
That flying machine placed just a little bit far away, and now, honestly, the matchup advantage that Canario had kind of out the window with 44 HP on that left-hand tower, Rich.
A huge moment for Matt01. Now, let's be exceptionally clear. If there's anyone who can be in a hole like this and figure out a way to dig out, it's going to be Canario. We've seen him do it over and over and over again, but an almost entire tower down hole is a huge one to try to make your way from the bottom.
Absolutely. And now with the Tombstone out of cycle, Matt01 only has the Guards in play. Now he has nothing in an immediate ground response. So this is where Canario is going to have to really take advantage of Matt01, and that's probably why Matt's cycling these cards early so he can get back to the Tombstone and back to the Guards as soon as possible. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, Andrew, about that zap on the left-hand tower. Might it have been smart to leave that tower up for a while so you didn't have the King Tower involved, but you answered the question, which was getting the cycle through.
Yes, exactly. Get that cycle through, get back to your ground responses, and now Canario knows. He just said it, good game. Obviously not going to give up, but Matt doing an excellent job of recognizing the weakness in his deck to Canario's matchup and then making that a non-factor.
Matt01 in a good position, but of course with 30 seconds left, Canario could be sneaking a Battle Ram through here. I don't know. If that P.E.K.K.A gets on tower, the Guards get down just in time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you said, Rich, Canario is never really out of the game, getting so very close. 15 seconds left, another great high tombstone from Matt01. And that is going to be it. SK taking the first head-to-head set with G2 taking that 2v2.
Nail in the coffin, and there you go. Now we are all even in sets. Matt01 only went 2 and 4 overall in 1v1 sets, but winning possibly the most important 1v1 match of his entire career right now.
Oh my gosh, Rich, I don't think you could have said it better yourself. And then now you see right here that P.E.K.K.A being taken out by the Inferno Dragon. It looked like the Electro Wiz was going to stop it and create a big push, but that flying machine just a hair outside of range from that Inferno Dragon. I know Canario would rather have sacrificed his flying machine than his left Princess Tower.
A very rare mistake from the Giant Slayer, who falls all the way down the beanstalk, courtesy of our very own Jack here, Matt01, and now things all evened up. And yeah, that was a very, very huge moment. Canario, considered possibly the best in the world, stumbling here in his opening head-to-head play.
Yeah, absolutely. So now Canario falling for G2 means we will have at least 2 more sets coming your way. Our second head-to-head set coming at you right now.
This morning I woke up, put on my royal crown, ate my royal breakfast, and came straight to the arena. Why, you ask? Loweye and Faye in a playoff 1v1 battle. That's why. Well, the waiting is over. Let's do this thing.
What a fascinating head-to-head matchup here, Andrew. Neither player here has made a ton of appearances, but both players definitely well respected.
Yes, absolutely. We got Faye coming out for G2 here, 0-3 in 1v1 sets, 4-2 in King of the Hill for an overall record of 5-8 in that head-to-head set. And then coming out for SK Gaming, our good friend Loweye, 2-1 in that 1v1 set, 5-4 in games, not counting the playoffs, of course. Looking to close this one out, both these guys for their teams.
So here we are, a new set of card bans for this 1v1 set, Tornado and Poison.
Yeah, NATO probably going to be a ban from one of either of the teams throughout the day. Again, with that Ice Wiz, NATO Tombstone combo being so powerful, you don't want to go up against it ever.
Faye considered one of the best, struggles here at CRL. Loweye on a hot streak the later part of the season. You know, you got to wonder if Loweye benefits here at all, Andrew, from coming off of that nice reverse sweep of Doberman in the first match today.
I mean, confidence is such a huge thing, Rich, especially, you know, your confidence under the lights and having your very first playoff appearance go so well for SK. You got to think Loweye's feeling in a good position. And honestly, he obviously is if he's going to come out with a giant Sparky deck. Or is it going to be a Goblin giant Sparky deck? Nope.
It is Giant Sparky. Fireball will deal with most of that push on the left-hand side, and Faye's going to have to worry about what's happening here on the right.
Oh, and a great late P.E.K.K.A coming in. Wow, really, really well played by Faye. However, distracted by all those units, allowing the Giant to get a ton of damage in, and those bats are surviving.
E-Wiz comes in just in time to stop it from being towered down, but still, that's a lot of damage, down to 368. This is the second time I believe we've seen Loweye play this deck. Of course, the big one was in that game against Surgical Goblin to clinch a playoff spot, where he spent what we've called multiple times the 2 most valuable elixir ever spent in CRL.
Absolutely. If you look from left to right here, you see the deck and why it works so well. You got 6 and 5 elixir up top, 4 in your spell, and then everything else is 3 or below, allowing a very, very quick cycle, able to get back around to your Sparky or your Giant, whether your Spiker's coming down the lane and you want to support that push with the Giant, or whether you need to play the Sparky in the back to defend against tanks. A very good tank defender. And what I was going to say early on, Rich, was that drop of the P.E.K.K.A by Faye was so close to perfect, but it actually ended up being a horrible misplay, just being played even one tile too high.
So Faye, knowing Fireball is probably in cycle, having it not be spent against his Magic Archer, elects to split lane here. So while it is Loweye with a good lead on the right-hand side with just a minute remaining, Faye does have this opportunity to go either lane and really put the pressure on.
And so with the P.E.K.K.A being played in one lane, you know that Faye is trying to essentially bait out the Sparky from his opponent. The Sparky is going to be the best response to the tank every single time. So you saw, he played the P.E.K.K.A, then the Sparky was played, and then he played the Rascals in the opposite lane, and then Faye played the Magic Archer, or excuse me, the Electro was to support that P.E.K.K.A in the right.
That Magic Archer played fairly deep. That Giant does not get to tower, but a second Sparky opposite lane. Now a very good situation for Loweye with just 15 seconds left in regulation.
Yeah, a very frustrating cycle. Again, it's only a 9 elixir cycle to get back around. So very, very easy to spell cycle out, very easy to play against those tanks. And now Loweye for his team is going to be taking this very first game in this third set here in playoffs.
Talk about that quick cycle. Here it comes, Fireball on tower, and Loweye takes game number 1.
You know, for all the decks that we've seen played at CRL with so much success, this is one of the ones I haven't even picked up and tried at home, but it looks so fun. It's so powerful. Those cheap responses baiting out the zap. You don't want to zap the Sparky, you got to zap the bats. You don't want to zap the bats, you got to zap the Spear Goblins. What do you zap? And then here's that play. It was almost perfect, Rich. Almost perfect taking out that Sparky.
Well, Andrew, I look at this deck, and you look at it and see the success rate it's had here at CRL, because Sparky has been fantastic here in head-to-head play. But then you also go, is it because it's great, or is it because these pros are great?
It's because the pros are great, and that is a great question to ask. Sparky is a very, very powerful card, but it's really about the way that these pros protect it and augment those Sparky pushes, keeping it alive to create its maximum output.
So it pays off once more. Game number 2 underway. Good luck from both players, and right now it feels like G2's in need of some good luck.
Yeah, very, very interesting being able to sit back and watch that first match of the day. Now G2 really feeling the pressure, and SK riding high.
Faye played 1v1 against Morton the last time these squads met, and Morton took the sweep. Faye running a Royal Hog deck in both situations and getting beat in close matches in both situations.
Yeah, you know, Royal Hogs looks like it's definitely going to be in play here. 100% obviously from Faye, who's already played them, and then Loweye looking like he could be doing that Royal Hogs 3 Musketeers combination, seeing the Ice Golem and the Skellies in there. Great, quick, cheap cycle cards that also provide a good amount of tankage in the Ice Golem and a small amount of tankage in those skeletons.
Well, the 3 Musketeer Royal Hogs Ghost deck did take down Faye when he played against Morton. Of course, in that situation, he was playing another Magic Archer deck, but it also had Mini P.E.K.K.A. and Goblin Gang.
Yeah, very interesting makeup. I remember that deck very specifically, and now you see Loweye splitting his 3 Musketeers, the spell, the Fireball coming in for Faye, and you see the Rascals and the Royal Hogs from Faye with the Royal Ghost. You've got to assume that last card in his hand is also the 3 Musketeers.
It's a P.E.K.K.A.
It's a P.E.K.K.A. Wow. Okay.
So a fascinating deck composition here. I'm going to take a look at some notes I have on some of these older decks here, because I have a bit of a theory I want to get into if I do see this.
And some great counters there for Loweye to this. You've got the Ice Golem kiting the P.E.K.K.A. as you can see here in the middle of your screen. You saw the Skellies coming down to counter that Royal Ghost, a 1-for-3 trade. Really, really great kites and defense here played, and now you see an incredibly efficient defense from Loweye, getting that Hunter in to take out the P.E.K.K.A. that was just kited by the Ice Golem. Really masterful defense.
And I was right, this is the OP Sam deck. That's exactly what we're talking about. The Royal Hogs, Magic Archer, Ghost, Rascals, Ewiz, Log, Fireball, P.E.K.K.A.
Right, oh, on the bottom, gotcha, yeah. Except for it originally had the Bar Barrel because the Log banned, which is very, very interesting. Fascinating, honestly. We haven't seen it much.
You know, it came into style for a minute. Of course, you had Sam from North America's TSM sweeping Complexity with the same deck, of course, with Bar Barrel in, as you mentioned, for that Log ban. And of course, Vulcan taking a game earlier in that same set, or in that same match.
And now you see the success of the deck, Rich, creating such massive dual lane pressure, not enough to defend for Loweye. And you see, he was just trying his darndest to play defense there, but could not keep up. Faye, tons of pressure in both lanes. And also in that left-hand lane, you saw the P.E.K.K.A. tanking for the Royal Hogs, and the E was behind, resetting that Princess Tower over and over and over.
That deck, you know, that deck made a big splash in the scene, and here you see why, and that's that split lane pressure.
Yeah, exactly. The P.E.K.K.A. is tanking for the Royal Hogs here, so then the E-Wiz resets the Princess Tower on to the Hogs, now in turn tanking for the P.E.K.K.A. The P.E.K.K.A. is taken out, but it looked like the left-hand tower was the one that was going to go down, but then you recognized in the right, there was still so much healthy, so much alive, and Faye really succeeding with that deck that Sam made popular.
Well, it has a lot of similarities to a traditional P.E.K.K.A. E-Wiz bridge spam deck.
Yeah.
But you just take out the 4 cost of the battle ram, add 1 extra elixir, and you get dual lane pressure.
Yeah, absolutely, and that dual lane pressure works so well with that bridge spam deck.
And that deck, as I was saying, took the world of Clash Royale by storm, because at the same time that it swept Complexity at the moment, it was the best. They were the best team in the country. Sam also took that, I believe, to #1 on the ladder for a moment. And so suddenly, overnight, that deck went from almost no usage to being everywhere.
Well, sometimes you see 8 cards, and you're like, how in the world does this work out? And then you watch a pro play with them. You're like, oh, wow, this is some of the most brilliant deck synergy I've ever seen and never thought about.
So Loweye possibly showing the OP Sam deck. Faye looking like running Lava Loon.
Yep, and again, this is the conversation that always comes up. Most Lava Loons in this meta have 2 responses to ground units, and that is the guards and the tombstone. And with Loweye running this Royal Hogs deck, most likely having a big spell in there as well to take out the fireball, you'd think he's able to keep up a ton of pressure. And that Royal Ghost, honestly, is such a great way to create tons of pressure against this Lava Hound deck.
That flying machine, and now we see why he let it play so far on the right-hand side. He had the E-Wiz in hand.
Magic Archer coming in for Loweye, interesting.
So about a minute and a half down, and Loweye does have a slight lead and pushing the advantage in the right-hand lane. It might be Faye sacrificing tower.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about is, Faye would have had to opt to play way more Elixir than he wanted to defend against that. His guards not back around its cycle, I believe, so he would have played the Tombstone. The Tombstone would have been picked off by the Magic Archer. Loweye recognizing that, supporting his push with the Magic Archer. Really, really easy tower take for him.
So the fireball is going to mean that balloon should get at least 1 drop on the tower, possibly a second, depending on how he deals with this E-Wiz. So 1 drop down, second one coming. Yep. That's going to be tower down, so we do have a trade as we enter into double elixir time.
And that Magic Archer in the back doing a great job defensively here, really, really helping clean up this Lava Hound push and those pups. But an interesting tower trade early on from these guys.
That flying machine not knowing where to go, and it will get taken out by the Inferno Dragon. This is an unfortunate pairing here, the way these 2 cards are meeting on the side of Loweye.
Wow, those Royal Hogs getting a lot of damage in.
That's one way in which the Log is favored in some cases over the Barbarian Barrel. Andrew, of course, the Log having that knockback ability.
Yeah, just creating a little bit more space to usually get in 1 or 2 more hits with either the Royal Hogs or the Hog Rider.
And again, this balloon's going to get at least a 1 drop on tower. The fireball does barely prevent the second one.
And kind of surprising by Loweye not opting to play a little bit more cautious defense, knowing that he only has 2 great responses to that balloon, knowing that that's such a huge win condition. 2.5. Magic Archer is a moderate response.
Although Royal Hog's in the pocket with the Ghost,
yeah.
This could be it here. If he can get just enough damage, he might be in spell cycle range.
He is very close. That Magic Archer is going to do it. Oh, wow, that Mega Minion could be the MVP of the day for Faye, turning that Magic Archer around. 2 of those hits coming in, nothing to stop that Royal Ghost.
And not in time. There we go. Loweye taking down Faye. A huge win here, and now it's SK Gaming just 1 set away to meeting Team Queso in the finals.
Unbelievable. The Cinderella story in SK, battling through Allegiance, now battling through G2. You see that log coming in. We were just talking about the knockback and honestly the slight stun of it, allowing those Hogs to come in. A great Magic Archer by Faye. If Faye won this game, that would have been why right there. However, that Royal Ghost coming in, I talked about it at the beginning of the match, Rich. I talked about it last match. That Lava Loon deck has 2 ground responses. Loweye recognized it, sent that Royal Ghost in for the kill.
A huge win for Loweye. Didn't play a lot of 1v1 during the regular season, went 2-1 in sets. Here in the playoffs, though, he is now 2-0, and that's a big 2-0.
Oh, that is a huge 2-0. They are now just one set away for playing against Team Queso in those World Finals.
So we have one more 1v1 set in store. It's going to be G2 hoping to push it to King of the Hill. SK looking to close things out and make their way to the European Finals.
This next 1v1 showdown is so big, it makes the boulder look like he's playing with marbles. It is so enormous, it makes the giant look like a teensy-weensy ice spirit. I hope these guys can handle it. Morton and Fairchew rise to this gargantuan occasion in the final 1v1 showdown.
And a bit of a shocker here, Andrew, with everything on the line coming out for G2. It isn't Canario.
Yeah, very, very surprising. You cannot play in 2 consecutive sets. However, you can play in 2 sets. Canario not coming out. Fairchew coming out for G2 is 1-0 in these 1v1 sets, 2-0 in games. So, I mean, he is undefeated in that set. However, Canario is the heavy hitter for their team. Morton coming out after great success in his first match today for SK, looking to send G2 on their way and make it to the finals.
Let's take a look at our card bans active for all potential 3 games of this 1v1 set, Tornado and Fireball.
Yeah, no surprise seeing the NATO ban. The Fireball, not a big surprise there either, but really the NATO is the card of the day to get out of play. Morton looking to bring this one home for SK. Whew.
I think the big surprise here is no Canario, so Morton and Fairchew for everything for G2.
You know, Rich, not seeing Canario in play, what do you think it is that G2 saw in SK, or why? Why is my question.
Well, I've talked to a couple of coaches about the format for the playoffs, and yes, you are allowed to play a player twice in the first 4 sets, just not twice in a row. And some of them said that the amount of pressure to prepare so many different decks, 6 or 8 decks potentially for their player, that was just a little bit too much going into that 1v1 set. So they didn't want to put too much and allow too much gaming against one player.
It's very interesting. Very good point there as well. A great poison coming out for Fairchew, not just getting on Princess Tower and the pump, but also hitting that Hunter. And now, obviously, we see the 3 Musketeers with the Elixir Collector coming in. Really the only viable option for an Elixir Collector in a deck. You'll see it paired with Golem or Beatdown sometimes. I don't know how that's about all I could say about that.
Well, so far, it's Fairchew coming out with a slight early lead after the first minute has passed. And look, not to knock Fairchew as a player at all. Of course, his credentials are very high. Top 8 at the Honor Cup, top at Slow Finals, top 16 at Gamergy, and he's performed very well here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just, he's kind of been overshadowed by his teammate, not in a negative way, but, when someone's been playing as well as Canario has in that 1v1 set, you don't really need to bring Fairchew in. Also is a really nice thing for, G2 to have in their back pocket to be like, oh yeah, we're going to bust out Fairchew, someone who you've only seen once in head-to-head play.
And that might be some of the thought process here, Andrew, is there simply it might be harder to plan for your bans and deck choices against a guy we have not seen a ton.
Well, yeah, you'd think SK was probably expecting to see Canario twice in these first few 1v1 sets. So maybe just a great bit of gamesmanship from G2.
An interesting game design note here, Andrew. You notice that Ice Golem is placed to pull the Magic Archer off, and the Magic Archer, despite having such a long range, not quite long enough for a King Tower activation. And if you're talking about a way to nerf Magic Archer, giving a little bit extra range might actually be a nerf and a buff at the same time.
That's a very interesting point, right? Because then you can put it in a position to activate your King Tower, not being able to play it so freely, which is one of the issues with Magic Archer now, is you can almost just drop it behind any push and he'll get a couple shots in on that tower.
Well, that's a ton of shots here from that Royal Ghost.
Yeah.
This Royal Hog push, though, still getting, I want to say that was like 500 or 600 damage.
Yeah, a decent amount of damage there from that. Obviously, the Lumberjack being single target, very high DPS. The Hunter getting kind of its shots tanked, or the Royal Hog's kind of tanked for its brethren there from those Hunter shots.
So we are now entering into sudden death overtime, as it is Morton taking the lead on the left-hand tower with that raged-up Hunter shot. So now it is Morton who had fallen behind early, putting his opponent in a very difficult position, and now that he's able to pump up, this could become very, very hard for Fairchild.
And that's a very important pumping up. A lot of amateur players, once you get into overtime or once things kind of really start going crazy, they'll stop pumping up to opt for quicker offense and quicker defense. And then they kind of don't really realize why the advantage they had earlier on in the game doesn't seem to really be evident anymore, and it's because they stop. Wow, that a very interesting interaction right there. The Royal Ghost not popping up, allowing that Lumberjack to get through.
Yeah, nearly got on tower, so very lucky for Fairchild that in the last moment that Royal Ghost did go visible and distract, but now here we are, and it's a battle ram on the left-hand side. I don't know, he just barely stops it from connecting. That's a healthy Musketeer behind them.
Yeah, those bats doing a great job stopping that battle ram just in time. So many close calls. That pump up in the right still providing a bit of an elixir advantage to Morton, and now with that poison coming down late on those Musketeers, I would try to pump up as soon as possible, still having a minute and 40 seconds remaining.
Looks like Morton's choosing to put the pedal to the metal here and try to get on tower, although that battle ram's gonna get stopped over by that tombstone. So, but if this Musketeer can connect, and perfect defense from Fairchild, does get one shot off.
Yeah, see, and that's, again, that one shot, all of that effort for one shot, when instead Morton could have actually had an elixir pump on the field and just kind of opted to play defense right now at a pretty big disadvantage. Somehow that Magic Archer not connecting. Wow, very fortunate for Morton from SK.
Although this looks like it's going to be it, that second Magic Archer down. Fairchild very close to closing this first game out, down to 279. If a Magic Archer and just barely gets picked up, so Morton needs to play perfect defense here and get damage on the left-hand side. Those Royal Hogs should be the end here.
Wow, the desperation high elixir collector. There's basically no coming back from an elixir collector being played on defense, and Morton knows it. Fairchild doing a great job, but I definitely admire Morton for playing that elixir collector.
Look, he tried to keep himself in contention there, and you know, you were talking about the idea of when to push and when not to push, when to go into second gear and when to go into fifth gear, and this felt like Morton went into high gear just a little early.
Yeah, it just really felt like, and this was the moment where it felt like he should probably just opt to recollect, oh, excuse me, no, this is not the moment yet. This is early on when you get that breakthrough from the Hunter and the Lumberjack in that left-hand lane, and it looked like Morton was really about to take that damage advantage, but then you saw right here the Magic Archers piercing through, so much at the river, not efficient enough defense from Morton. Two Magic Archers, those beams of flying, really, really tough. Somehow he actually mitigated most of the damage with his troop placement. Very, very impressive. However, just not enough defense there in those final seconds.
And a lack of big spell also making it challenging there. Look, I mean, I think that if he'd played a little bit slower, we might be seeing singing a different tune right now. Yeah. But with Royal Hogs and Magic Archers out there, a lack of a big spell definitely makes that harder.
Yeah, definitely. I really have a feeling that he wishes he would have opted to elixir pump up in that moment.
Well, he'll have the option to make some changes here in game number 2. Fairchild now in a position to send his squad to King of the Hill, where they have been very good throughout the season. They've gone to King of the Hill a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, coming out on top more often than not 4-3.
Yeah, and so if you're SK, you got to think you really want to lock this one away, send it home before going to King of the Hill. It would be our very first King of the Hill in the playoffs. Very exciting for you and I, Rich. However, SK really wanting to close this one out before opening or leaving the door for G2.
Especially because SK has gone to King of the Hill 5 times this season and have only won one of those 5 appearances at King of the Hill, so not a position in which they are at their best.
Yeah, and you know, seeing their head-to-head, I guess, triumphs today makes you think they would have a better chance in King of the Hill than they have in the past, but again, G2 having so much success there and so much experience there makes you think it is the last thing that SK wants.
So Morton playing Hog Rider Mini P.E.K.K.A, an archetype that has kind of fallen out of favor. I even heard some players joking about Hog Rider Mini P.E.K.K.A after one of our matches.
Yeah, the Hog Rider Mini P.E.K.K.A Princess just kind of seems to be a weaker deck now in the meta. Maybe the Tornado and the Fireball being out of play make it just a little bit more effective. But this Mega Knight Miner, most likely poison control deck from Fairchew, has tons of responses.
And there you go. There's the poison that will clean up the Princess. So halfway through regulation time, and it is once again Fairchew taking the lead.
And one of the interesting things about this as well is that, you know, Morton most likely has the Rocket as his 8th card in his hand. A very good response to the Inferno Dragon. But, you know, I just can't imagine the Inferno Dragon being rocketed is going to be something that's going to come into a play a lot during this game.
Well, there's not a lot of huge troops for Morton. So you're looking at that going, what is necessarily the Inferno Dragon bait? It's almost more like he'll play the Inferno Dragon as you see it now and hope they can get across and force a response.
Exactly, because there's only really a couple great responses in Morton's deck to that Inferno Dragon in the Bats and the Ice Spirit.
Well, there's the Ice Spirit doing its job. Miner getting on the right-hand tower. Not exactly picked up here, and that poison will take out the Princess once again.
Yeah, and as you were saying, Rich, that Inferno Dragon was probably alive for about 25 seconds in the game, so now Fairchew in a very nice position to just kind of always cycle that Inferno Dragon when it's in his hand and he's at 10 Elixir in the back unless he needs it for defense, because there's not cards that demand that Inferno Dragon, as you said before, and it's also very tough for Morton to stop.
Miner comes and takes out the Princess and puts some damage on that left-hand lane. The Hog Rider is cycling through fairly quickly, but not getting a ton done here.
Yeah, it does get a hit in on that tower, but just not quite enough. However, you know, these guys are very, very close in damage. Morton keeps cycling through here. He's going to beat the Mega Knight a couple times if he can. Ideally, he's got to beat the Mega Knight in cycle.
An excellent early poison here, in this case from Fairchew.
And a great job with the Princess, couple of the Ice Spirits to take out those Bats, and a decent counter push here coming down the lane for Morton.
And that was so huge,
so
Andrew.
Huge. It wasn't the Mini P.E.K.K.A, it was the log that stunned the troop, then in turn have the Mini P.E.K.K.A take out that Royal Ghost. Really, really nice play, really evening things up.
And just a little too close here is Morton, putting the Mini P.E.K.K.A and Princess within range of that Princess Tower being poisoned. So you think if just one tile higher, that Mini P.E.K.K.A might still be alive.
Yeah, great recognition there, Rich. Just a very, very small misplay, but giving your opponent spell value is always a no-no. It's something you never want. And wow, a great zap there to retarget that Inferno Dragon on the tower, forcing an Ice Spirit out of Morton. Wow. And it still gets a hit in, so now we're a log and a rocket away. Morton is actually going to take this.
Oh my gosh, Morton looked like he was out, but there he is. We are going to game number 3.
I don't think Morton can believe it. I mean, he was having such a hard time throughout that game, but then you saw exactly that Hog Rider coming through, getting those hits in, and that was that one really big play. The Hog Rider and the Mini P.E.K.K.A coming down the lane. The log that pushed this Royal Ghost out of play. Ice Golem up front tanking. You got the Mini P.E.K.K.A in behind, gets one hit in, bounces that Royal Ghost back, gets the second hit in, and now is forced to bring out the Mega Knight. And the Mega Knight being dropped there was very, very easy for Morton to counter, and in turn, this created this final push. That last Hog Rider sliver hit came in. You saw the Electro Wizard coming down to stop it. You knew that Fairchew knew it was a log and rocket away with that swing. Wow.
And
Morton.
Yeah, unbelievable. I was going to say, one thing you also noticed in that first play with the Mini P.E.K.K.A so high, the Princess Mini P.E.K.K.A were just far apart enough away from each other. The poison couldn't get both of them, and you saw how it didn't work as well the second time around, but rocket in hand, rocket in pocket, let's go.
Yeah, you talk about that spell value, man. So crucial. Just the slightest change, one tile difference allowed Fairchew to get great spell value over Morton. If he would have done that over and over throughout the match, we'd probably be looking at something much, much different right now. But Morton coming out on top in that second game.
For those of you playing along at home, take a look at the left side of your screen. Morton is now just 2 minutes and 30 seconds away to maybe 5.5 minutes away from sending SK Gaming to the European Finals.
Yeah, unbelievable. Once again, the Cinderella story, the team that almost didn't make it now having a great amount of success in day one of the playoffs. Fairchew for G2 looking to stand in his way.
And it's definitely Giant Prince. Do you think the second one is in there? No, it's Giant Miner. Okay.
Yeah, and that Lumberjack just doing a ton of work on that Giant. Ends up being a decent trade because Fairchew was able to get rid of that Elixir Collector, but most likely, I was going to say, most likely not going to allow that Lumberjack to come get a couple hits in, but he's got to save his Elixir.
2 big shots, so here we are. Morton choosing to bring the pump back, and this time not dealing with the chaos of the Royal Hogs. Probably see the Ice Golem here again, and there we are.
Great call. Protect that Hunter, preserve the health of the Hunter.
And this time the Hunter comes out completely unscathed, so very nice interaction for Morton.
Wow, and the high 3 Musketeers to augment this Hunter push. I wasn't sure if he was just going to leave it, but oh, that Royal Ghost actually coming out early, only hitting the 1 Musketeer is going to allow for no counter push potential for Fairchew.
So entering into double Elixir time, the dual lane pressure is working out for the German Morton so far. Another pump down. He does have to deal with a lot in the right-hand lane.
Yeah, and you see the adjustment here from Fairchew. The first time playing the Royal Ghost and the Giant and the Lumberjack being a menace, he recognized, okay, I know what I can do better this time. I'll play a Giant and a Prince. That way my Prince's lands can get around the Giant and take care of that Lumberjack. A very small adjustment, but a very good one.
And this time Morton opts to go all the way behind the King Tower. Poison will do a lot of damage on the left-hand side, though.
Yeah, having Fireball out of play means that you're going to basically always have to have Poison in, which means as well with these decks, like, you know, for Fairchew, there's no way you can fit a Poison and a Lightning in that deck. It allows Morton to basically either get the Poison on the pump or the 3 Musketeers, not both.
And this time, Fairchew is choosing to support those very healthy troops with a giant push on the left-hand side rather than continue to push on the right. The Miner sneaks through, but a lot of that gets eaten up. Yeah,
very, very good defense by Morton there. The Miner obviously getting its full duration of hits in there, but still at a 200 HP advantage is Morton. Man, those barbs do not get on tower.
Almost very, very close. Stopped at the very last second. But now down to 12:37. We are about 30 seconds into sudden death. And Morton opting to eat that Royal Ghost swing to get his 3 Musketeers down.
Yeah, and I like that. You saw Fairchew leak about 1 Elixir there to make sure he timed his poison perfectly. And these 2 Musketeers in the right-hand lane demanding a small response is going to be a zap.
Yeah, so an extra 2 Elixir spent because did not take care get them into Princess Tower arrow range. So a very interesting interaction. And now Morton, with the Miner out of cycle, chooses to pump up.
Yeah, and you see here, you know, Fairchew, exactly, great point. Miner being out of cycle, his best way to punish. Now either having to poison the pump or leave it alone to save his poison for the 3 Musketeers. And a high 3 Musketeers, allowing it so that you can't get spell value on the pump and the Musketeers and the Princess Tower. Really nice play there.
And that Musketeer Ram on the right-hand side is going to be very difficult. It's going to require a lot of Elixir spent to stop it from doing damage. The Royal Ghost in support. If that Royal Ghost can get through, this could be a big moment.
And a really nice log there to stop his opponent's Royal Ghost, Fairchew's Royal Ghost, in stopping Morton's. And still not getting on that tower. Very, very good defense by the G2 representative.
But Morton certainly requiring a lot of Elixir spent on defense, and that poison just a half step early.
Yeah, we'll see if that actually comes back to be a problem here. That Royal Ghost is going to be distracted by the Giant.
Oh, here we are on the left-hand side.
Yep, that's going to be tower down.
Oh
Morton
my God.
sending SK to the finals. Look at their team explode off the bench.
Wow, SK Gaming. You know, there was a moment where you thought they might not even make the playoffs, and now they are going to the European finals with a shot at traveling all the way to Tokyo, Japan.
Oh my gosh, breaking hearts left and right. The Silent Assassins, the Cinderella story in SK Gaming comes out, sweeps Allegiance, and takes it to that 4th set over G2. They struggled in the first and then took 3 in a row for a team that has not really had a 1v1 specialist. I'm doing those nice air quotes that you guys can't see. They have proven that they all deserve to be here, and SK is going to those finals, Rich.
Unbelievable. You know, Morton up and down a little bit, some moments where he over pushes, but I've been saying for a little while that I think Morton deserves to be on a top 10 list, maybe one that you might have seen online. I would have put him in there, and he shows right now why he belongs at the top of the CRL rankings.
Absolutely. You see this incredible dual lane pressure. Fairtrue is kind of forced to use his giant on defense, but that leaves no elixir to defend the left, and look at how excited he is. That headset almost popping off, the whole entire bench of SK on their feet, and this is what CRL is all about, baby. Boom! SK and Team Queso going to the finals.
Wow, just what a wonderful story. These guys started off very tough, only going 1-2 to open the season, and here we are now. It's been 10 weeks. We are in a different position, and it is Morton being the hero twice today for his squad. So let's go as he sits down with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. Taking the closing 1v1 match twice today. Are you feeling that victory?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I think no one expected we go to the finals, and so it feels better.
Well, you say no one expected. Did you expect to go to the finals?
Not really. We practiced a lot. Like, our goal before the season was to go to playoffs. We got it, and so now we played without pressure, and it worked well.
And you've had a roller coaster of emotions of a day. Tell me, did your first win against Allegiance help you take the second one?
Yeah, we knew it would be a really, really hard match against G2, but we played really good against Allegiance, so we were really, really confident. But after 2v2, like, it was not the best situation, but then match started with the 1v1. It was really, really good.
And you did come back in that second game. There's one specific play that I have to ask you about. It's a log that took out a Royal Ghost that basically got you the match. Do you remember that play? Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, I knew what he has in cycle, and so I have to predict it, and I knew, like, if I do that, he can't defend anymore.
Well, about to take a breath, celebrate, but also you have to look at what's coming up. Tell me, what are you most nervous about going up against Queso?
I know we played twice against them, we lost both. And I think we have no pressure against them, and we will prepare like now against Allegiance and G2, and I think we have a chance to win.
Well, I'm excited to see it. Thanks so much for talking to me. Great wins today. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. What unbelievable play from SK Gaming. Again, almost being out of playoff contention to the point now where they are in the European final up against Team Queso with a shot at Worlds.
Absolutely, and whoever wins that game, that match on Saturday will be on their way to Tokyo, Japan, December 1st for the World Finals that take place at 11 a.m. Japan Standard Time. Rich and I will be there. Come join us.
And if you haven't already yet, right now, go hit that subscribe button on the Clash Royale Esports YouTube page. Ring that bell so that you know when those European finals are happening. Go to esports.clashroyale.com for all other information. Of course, there is the Esports tab inside your Clash Royale app. And when that bell goes off, you'll come back and join us on Saturday, October 27th for the European finals. SK Gaming up against Team Queso. The winner will travel all the way across the ocean to Japan. For my friend Andrew Guy, I'm Rich Slayton. We will see you Saturday back in the arena.
Friends, today was truly the greatest we have ever seen inside the arena. With playoff pressure weighing heavy on their shoulders, these pro players got even better. They looked cool under pressure, writing their own story card by card. For some, the season has ended in the blink of an eye. For others, the dream of glory lives on. Now, only one match remains. Tune in to the European Finals on Saturday. Subscribe to the Clash Royale Esports channel. And remember, balloons and flying machines for Tokyo are booking up fast. If you don't reserve your spot soon, you could end up riding a battle ram. That's not easy, people. It hurts.